What's happening here? There's a new superstar in town. So, what are your thoughts on Android One? No. Seriously? I should have mentioned that in the video. I know the Nokia community is pretty divided on Nokia using Android One exclusively on all of their devices. So I wanted to create this video to talk about the good aspects and the bad aspects of using Android One, and then give you my opinion on what Nokia should do moving forward. So let's get into it. PS, if you're enjoying my content so far, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Be a superstar. So the first question you might be asking yourself is, what is Android One? The easiest way for me to explain it is to tell you that it's Android as Google intended it to be. Pretty much a clean slate of Android. It's an operating system that completely depends on Google services, from the app gallery, to the calendar, to the clock, to absolutely everything else. The next question that you might be asking yourself is it different than Android that's offered on the Pixel devices? And the answer is very slightly. The Pixel launcher is essentially Android One, with some Google added features to add value to the Pixel lineup. So unless you dig quite deep into the settings, they will look and feel almost identical. I guess Google just wants their own devices to stand out a bit, which is why they add all these exclusive features. So why is HMD Global or Nokia Mobile insisting on using Android One on their devices? Let's talk about the pros. The first main reason is that HMD doesn't want to have to build their own operating system or custom OS. So they rely absolutely on Google for everything when it comes to updates and adding new features. So that saves them time and money when it comes to developing their own applications and features. In theory, it also means that they should be able to update their devices to new Android operating systems much quicker than their competitors. And because they're using Android One, Google also helps them when it comes to updating their devices and offering monthly or regular software updates for security. So this is an excellent proposition for enterprise customers or business users. For regular users, the advantage is that we're promised 2 major versions of Android when we buy our devices. The other advantage for us is that the devices don't come with any bloatware. Bloatware is essentially services that we didn't ask for that usually come pre-installed on a lot of competing devices. So yeah, what it boils down to is that it costs them less to update their software, and they can offer more years of updates and better security. This all sounds very great in theory. But what are the disadvantages of using this strategy? The number one weakness, in my opinion, is that there is absolute lack of differentiation when it comes to high-end devices. Think about it this way. When you buy a Nokia 3 or a Nokia 2, you almost get the exact same software experience as when you buy the Nokia 8 or the Nokia 9, minus very few differences. So as a potential client, why would you spend so much more money getting a high-end device when you can get a very similar software experience on a mid-ranger or a low-end device? The second main weakness is that this strategy completely relies on Google for all the updates and features. Historically speaking, Google hasn't exactly been cutting edge when it comes to implementing new features. The most recent example I can think of is implementing dark mode on Android devices. This feature has been available for years on Samsung's own skin, as well as a lot of other competitors, while Google only implemented this in Android 10. This could potentially leave Nokia Mobile in a position where they are behind when it comes to technological innovations in the software. The other thing that affects us as users is that Android One has very limited customization options. Things such as fonts, themes, custom icons, and stuff like that are always way behind on Android One and way more limiting. Of course, you can still install third-party launchers, but that just doesn't feel as natural or integrated as having them built into the operating system. And because of using Android One, there are a lot more restrictions on custom launchers. Honestly, this is something only Google can explain. I have no idea why. The other disadvantage is that some of Google's services feel very bare bones compared to their competitors. The Google Photos application, for example, took years to be on par with its Samsung equivalent. And the last big disadvantage, in my opinion, is that there is very clear lack of optimization when it comes to implementing Android One on Nokia devices. In theory, Android One should be the smoothest, fastest operating system offered on all of the devices. But in reality, you notice a lot of performance hiccups when using Nokia devices. This also goes back to the fact that Nokia is releasing way too many phones. So trying to keep track of all these phones and making sure they all run optimally well, it just takes a lot of time and effort. So what do I think about this strategy in general? Well, I think it's a good strategy to implement on mid-range devices or budget-oriented devices. It's also excellent for enterprise customers, as I mentioned earlier. If you have a big company and you're trying to give your employees phones, it would be better to have all the software and security taken care of. So that's where HMD can shine. On the other side of the table, trying to implement Android One on flagship devices is very limiting. These flagship devices should be very different than their competitors. They should offer more value and more unique features. So essentially, using Android One leaves them a step or two behind their competitors in the high-end segment. So here's what I think they should do moving forward. I think they will eventually need to reach a point where they develop their own skin, at least for mid-range devices or high-end devices. This is absolutely critical. When you look at all the successful high-end devices, almost none of them use Android One. It's not as simple as saying the reason these successful devices are successful is because they don't use Android One, but it definitely affects the impression of users. They need to try and redevelop the Z launcher, which I think was really excellent for the time, or maybe get a new operating system skin that's inspired by Migo. Obviously, that's just a fan wish from a very big Migo fanboy as myself. Or maybe what they can do is they can develop a special line for enterprise clients and a line for regular consumers. Maybe something like the E series and N series, if you guys remember these. I mean, it's just a suggestion. But the big question remains: can Nokia Mobile afford to leave Google? Based on the recent announcement of investment funding, I think it's going to be absolutely difficult for them to develop their own custom skin. But I'm still hopeful they manage to pull it off, at least for very specific devices. Anyways, that was my take on Android One. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't. Anyways, that was my take on Android One. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.